Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm so excited because I'm finally reviewing Halloween H20. As I've mentioned in my previous videos, this is probably the movie in this franchise that I'm most excited to talk about, and honestly, I remember a lot more about this movie than I do the previous sequels that I've talked about because, well, other than Halloween 2018, this is the sequel that I rewatch the most often. So yeah, and it's pretty high up on my list for my franchise ranking, which that video will probably be out after I'm done reviewing the whole franchise. Let's get into the story, the setting of the movie, blah blah blah. Okay, so I feel like the Halloween fandom is pretty split on this movie. Like, a lot of people love it, but a lot of people don't like it. I'm obviously in the category of people who love it. And a lot of people's main problem, or one of their main problems with the movie, is that it takes place in California, and not Illinois. Well, the first few minutes of the movie takes place in Haddonfield, but not the rest of the movie. But I understand why, because obviously California doesn't feel nearly as much like Halloween, but it is still Halloween. But it's really not that hard to understand. It makes sense with the story because Lori moved out of Haddonfield and she changed her name. She became a different person. So it makes sense why the whole movie doesn't take place in Haddonfield. I understand why you'd want it to as a fan because it feels more like Halloween, but I feel like people just need to get over that. Like, yeah, so alright, so the story itself, I don't need to give you guys a whole synopsis, like I'm sure all of you have seen H20. But basically, like I said, Lori has changed her name to Carrie Tate. She's moved from Haddonfield to California. She now has a son. She now has a boyfriend, and she works at this all-girls school. But her son is the only guy that goes to the all-girls school, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so that's where everything takes place. And I like the story that they were telling in H20 far more than I like the Thorn trilogy, as I'm sure you guys have figured out by now. Yeah, so this movie is a direct sequel to Halloween 2. So in this timeline, 4 through 6, you just act like they don't exist, which I'm fine with. So yeah, it's exactly 20 years later from Halloween 2. Because I like the brother-sister storyline so much, which I will get into more in future videos, and in this video. That's a big reason why I love this movie so much, and the story they were telling. And I like how, even though Michael is still after his family, obviously, it's not about a cult, no one's making him do anything. He's going after Lori because she's his sister, and that's what I like about it. That's just my personal opinion. So let's get into the characters. Let's start with some of the supporting characters. Let's get into Lori's boyfriend. Oh my god, what's his name? I forget his name and it's gonna bother me. But Lori's boyfriend in this. I honestly didn't like him, but it's not because he was an ass or he did anything wrong. I just never cared for his character, but again, it wasn't for like a specific reason. Yeah, he just didn't really do it for me, and when he died, I just didn't care. The scene was cool though. His death scene was cool. Okay, now let's get into John, Lori's son, and John's girlfriend. I liked her. I thought she was a good supporting character. And she could actually act, so that's a good thing. And let's get into John himself. I liked him as a character. A lot of people, another problem some people have with this movie is that Lori has a son instead of a daughter in this movie, but I actually like that because it's different from the previous movies, 4 through 6, where her daughter was Jamie. So I like that they did something different and switched it up and had her have a son instead of a daughter, and I liked John's character in this. Obviously, he was annoying a lot throughout the movie, and he was kind of trying to rebel against Lori, which was annoying and annoyed me. But, you know, you can just tell that he's a really good person, and he doesn't have a lot of contact with his dad, or at least he doesn't see his dad very often, because that relationship between his dad and Lori obviously did not end very well. So yeah, but I honestly did feel bad for him, and I really like him specifically towards the end of the movie. And then of course you have LL Cool J, who plays the security guard. I thought he was he was a very fun and funny character. I thought he was a good comedic relief in this movie, so I liked his character. Okay, so now let's get into Lori, and then we'll talk about Michael. We always save Michael for last. So as I mentioned in my Halloween and Halloween 2 reviews, I absolutely love and adore Laurie Strode. She is my favorite final girl of all time. I love her in every single Halloween movie that she's in. But I specifically really liked her character in H2O because I liked how they were really exploring her trauma and how she took the events of 1978, and, you know, Michael being her brother and all those emotions she had to deal with, and her being an alcoholic, and, you know, the trouble she's had in relationships in the past. And I like the dynamic between her and her boyfriend where, you know, she's trying to open up, but it's hard for her, and you really just see how vulnerable she is. Especially towards the end of the movie, you see how strong she is. But I really like that they portrayed it as something, as one way that someone can handle trauma. They can run from it, you know, try to move on, but deep down they know they haven't really moved on. They're just running away from the problem instead of actually facing it. Well, she does at the end of the movie, but, you know, throughout the first half of the movie and the middle, you know, she knows deep down that Michael's still alive, but she's still trying to convince herself, you know, like, you're crazy. I just love her in this movie. I love her so much. Not quite sure what else to say. Okay, so now let's get into Michael. Another main problem that people had with this movie is Michael. And honestly, well, people didn't like, Chris Duran, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, who played Michael in H2O. They didn't like his portrayal of Michael. The main problem with Michael himself, besides that, was the masks, because there's 4 different masks in this movie, I believe, which honestly, I didn't even notice until I watched it. It was a couple of times ago I watched it. When was it? I don't know, but like when I was growing up watching this movie, I never noticed the different masks. I don't know if that's just because I was young and I wasn't paying attention to it, but people really have a lot of shit to talk about these masks, and I just feel like it's really not that deep. Like, yes, they should have just picked one mask to have throughout the whole movie, and I know there was some controversy backstage, and apparently that's why there were so many different masks, but I actually like the main mask. The mask, I believe it's the mask he's wearing through the majority of the movie, when him and Laurie come face to face for the first time in this movie. I actually don't mind that mask. A lot of people hate it. They say it's because you can see his eyes. Okay, you can also see his eyes in Resurrection. So, yeah, you see his eyes in other Halloween movies, so I'm not quite sure why they mainly complain about it in H2O. But I like Michael in this movie. I think that I actually like Chris Duran's portrayal of the character, because even though I like Michael brutal, as he should be, I feel like specifically in movies like Halloween 6, they took it too far, and it was too over the top in my opinion. So as much as I like Michael to be brutal, and I want the kills to be brutal and gory, at the same time, I like that classic feel that the original had. It was brutal, yet still classy, and I like how in this movie, the kills... sorry, I got a little bit off track. Basically, I like Michael in this movie because he's still Michael, and, but he's not as brutal as he is in some other Halloween sequels, and I actually don't mind that. And I started getting in a tangent about the kills themselves. I like how the kills are a mixture of, the kills in this movie actually really aren't that gory, to be honest. There's a little bit of gore, of course, but they also have that more classy feel like from the original, and I like that. Okay, I want to talk about my favorite moments in the movie. Okay, first, real quick, let's just get out of the way things I didn't like, which are going to be very quick. Really, the only main thing I can think about that I didn't care for in this movie is the score. It didn't feel like, I feel like it could have been better. And honestly, I'm trying to think of any other issues I had with it. And, I'm not really thinking of anything. I love this movie. Not sorry about it. Okay, so yeah, some of my favorite moments. When Michael and Laurie first see each other face to face through the window, I absolutely love that. That's one of my favorite moments out of the whole franchise, actually. And then Michael and Laurie's, whole fight at the end, and then the climax of the movie after the van goes off the road, and they have this moment just for a split second, like this, like they're almost touching hands, and it's just like a moment of brother and sister like connection. And just for a moment you see Laurie, like, she's crying. I don't think it's that she felt bad for Michael. I just think it was that he is still her brother, and I think she really felt that. But, she got over it, and then she chopped his head off, so that's great. And I just love the ending of this movie. I honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I can say that the ending of H2O is my favorite ending out of the whole franchise. Pretty close with the ending of Halloween 2. So, yeah, I think I basically covered everything. Yeah, this is going to be my longest review on this channel by far because, like I said, I absolutely love this movie, and a lot of the people in the community who love it actually love it because they saw it in theaters when it first came out. This is the first Halloween movie they saw in theaters, so they have a nostalgic connection to it. That's not actually why I love this movie so much, because I'm only 17, I'll be 18 in August, but I am a youngin', and I was not alive when this movie first came out in theaters. But I do have a nostalgic connection to this movie because I did grow up watching it. Even though I wasn't alive when it first came out, I do have a connection to this movie, and I always will. And like I mentioned earlier, a big part of it is the brother-sister storyline, which I was thinking about making a whole separate video about that whole topic because people have a lot of different opinions on it. I might do that someday, probably not anytime soon. But yeah, okay, that's it. This video is kind of long, but thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe, turn on my post notifications, give this video a thumbs up. We have Resurrection to review next, so that should be fun. Alright, I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Also, I just want to say, I absolutely love Jamie Lee Curtis. I love you. You are a goddess. I love you in this movie so much, and I love you in literally everything, so yeah.